I'm Agent Morris with the NSA.
We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
The traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion. Over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or whether any direction it wanted to go. Flag could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Good evening, everybody. This is Miles Lewis, and you are tuned in to another live edition of Anomaly-NOW, straight out of Austin, Texas. This is the weekly live news roundup, where we promote the efforts of the nonprofit 501c3 Scientific Anomaly Institute, aka the Anomaly Archives, located here in the heart of Texas. Well, boy, it's already been a very exciting little fun week. Yesterday, I got to see a long-time friend who I hadn't seen in a couple of years since running into him randomly at an airport as he was coming from the state I was going to. And that got me out to Ham Day. Ham Day. That's the HAAM for the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians. This is the website myham.org. That's myhaam.org. The nonprofit. Hey, there it is. There's the Ham Day logo for this year's t-shirt. And there's our friend Troy over there. And so many other great supporters of this fantastic organization that helps try to make it livable for Austin musicians to exist healthfully in this fine city. So every year they hold live music at a variety of institutions across town, and I actually got to go see some live music at, where else? H-E-B, the grocery store, the one right near where I went to junior high. Brand new store, hadn't been in it, hadn't set foot in it. It's quite strange. There's no groceries on the ground floor at all. And there's 2 or 3 levels of parking underground. Anyway, so the Anomaly Archives is, as I say, the 501c3 organization. You can find out more about us over at anomalyarchives.org, where we have links to all kinds of materials, including some of the information on our vast collections, our thousands and thousands and thousands of books, our thousands of magazines, and our paper and digital files. And there you'll find a link to Flipboard.com, where we aggregate our news articles that we collect and talk about on this show and in our newsletters and elsewhere. Ton of news as usual. Don't know how much of this I'm going to get through, especially with my voice going hoarse suddenly. But this video here right at the top, if you like watching extreme, sorry folks. There's the tab. The tab for flipboard.com/@anomalyarchives, which will take you to this link where you can see all these articles. Controversial shapeshifter tornado is most unique in history. Yuma. This is like a 3-year-old video. I'd never seen this before. I don't know that much about tornadoes, but I thought I knew that, sure enough, that it's anomalous if they do anything other than more or less a straight track of destruction. It's almost never known for them to loop back on themselves. But this video talks about a recent case a few years ago, I think, where this happened and how a live streamer may have helped save the lives of a family whose kids were trapped at home. And apparently, I think this same fellow may have witnessed the other case of a looping back tornado. Anyway, might be of interest to you. Not sure. Meanwhile, over at John Greenwald's The Black Vault, he's got a brand new video up from a couple of hours ago. It's a couple hours long. I have not had the chance to look at it, but the title, David Grush and his DoD DOPSR review documents, of course, is potentially of interest. There was some significant news in this realm of the Grush stuff that honestly I totally spaced on and do not have ready tonight. But there's been a couple of interesting developments, it seems, in terms of the documentation about him. And in this case, I guess the things that he got cleared for talking about publicly, according to the DOPSR DOPSR process. Meanwhile, there's a ton of other links about the recent NASA report, some downer, sad news on a couple of fronts. And, oh, wait, there's those mummies. Are those aliens? Are those mummies? Are they aliens? Ridiculousness. And so other interesting links, including a preview of Encounters, the new, is it Steven Spielberg? I forget. The new Netflix series that's going to focus on UFOs. That looks pretty interesting. Check that video out. Neanderthal genes are linked to severe COVID risk. Boy, that's going to be interesting over at the Wall Street Journal. And this, I did not. There's this article from local news, kview.com, Texas Science and Natural History Museum sets grand opening date. This, I don't know if I actually opened this up, but I don't think I did. This museum is one of those near and dear to my heart. I grew up going on visits to this in elementary school. Everything about it, from the dinosaur bones to the little dioramas of past epochs, just fascinated me. Talk about Neanderthals. Well, there was, of course, old dioramas with ancient peoples performing survival activities, and everything about this, including the massive Quetzalcoatl's skeleton you can see hanging there. There's just so much cool stuff, and everything about the vibe of the place just really enthralled me and made me interested in science and the natural world. And this gem at the heart of the UT campus here in Austin, Texas, is gotten $1 million of renovations done and sprucing up, and is now being rebranded as the Texas Science and Natural History Museum, which I'm really happy to see that something good is coming out of this. Hopefully, though, there was some danger that they were not going to make it. A lot of interesting tidbits of note here, and we go all the way back to last week, where there was this ridiculousness at the Mexican Congress, where poor old Ryan Graves was on the panel of people discussing the significance, importance, and seriousness of the UFO UAP issue, only to be upstaged by the powdered sugar coated mummy alien candies, whatever. So what all has been going on since then? Well, there was this UAP report and from NASA, and initially they didn't even tell us who the name of the director was. There was some kind of secrecy about that. They've since announced that. Here's a clip, though, from the Wall Street Journal covering this in video format, which, interestingly enough, features Ryan Graves throughout it, but you'll see some other familiar faces from what we were just talking about here.
Industrial origins, and that should only be a hypothesis of last resort. The report also says that stigma around this topic has prevented a lot of data from being reported. The team concluded that NASA's involvement could help lend credibility to the issue and reduce stigma, The agency appointed a director of UAP research, a sign of its investment in the issue.
They're extremely well respected. They have a great mind trust at NASA, and they can apply a lot of intellectual force to this problem. So I think them coming into the game should be, I'll say, a big win for transparency and for better understanding this issue.
Right. So, good for him. I don't know if that was shot before or after this the Mexican Congress debacle, but I'm kind of hoping this doesn't ruin his chances for credibility. He's working with Gary Nolan, whether you like that or not. That's what's going on, and he's pretty active in the scene, and I think generally trying to do a good thing, coming out of his having been seemingly at the heart of these military sightings that have become such a significant part of all this. Well, before we get to all of those news articles, I did also want to say this past weekend I had the pleasure of, after recently watching the Newkirks, Greg and Dana Newkirk, of the Paranormal Museum, their new documentary, The Unbinding. I really enjoyed it. As with their other stuff, I find it entertaining. I think that they're interesting thinkers. I think they're doing good work. I think that they are far and away much, much better than most of the other paranormal people producing content out there. And I think they're really trying to do the right thing all the time, even as they make misstep after misstep. But they're human, and I don't think they have any nefarious intent. That said, this weekend, Sunday night, got to go to the Stateside Theater next to the Paramount downtown, and had never been in the State Theater, but had, of course, been into Paramount a few times in the past. It's a smaller theater, but it's still nice, good amount of seating, pretty big, rowdy crowd, and ran into some old friends and saw some other new friends, and it was great. My wife and I went, and actually didn't realize I'd bought tickets right in the front row. No fanboydom there, but just real simple. Just the two of them sitting up on stage, running a PowerPoint, which kept getting interrupted because they had the Wi-Fi on and it kept trying to connect to the hotel Wi-Fi nearby. Not so professional in that regard, but they were their usual wonderful selves, and I really had a good time. And they basically went over many of the items that, if you've been watching their Haunted Objects podcast, which this was called the Haunted Objects Live show, you're probably familiar with. And so in that sense, there wasn't that much new or different, but there were, lots of little stories here and there that they peppered, and some new information related to their recent documentary, The Unbinding. And some of the objects that they covered, of course, were the crying children, fire, synchronicity, hauntings, the famous British crying boy paintings that seemingly cause and survive the mysterious fires, as well as their big expose, such as it was on the Dybbuk box, the not based on reality of a Jewish mystic trapping of a demon spirit in a box, complete BS, which they expose after having acquired one. That's actually over one of their other really good shows of the past, and just a number of other objects, including briefly talking about the crone, this effigy statuette with the nails in the eyes and noose around its neck. And that's what this whole documentary that they've been working on, I think, since 2016 is about. Now, like I say, I enjoyed the documentary. I enjoyed the live show. They strike me as wonderful people doing good work. They've gotten criticism over the years for any number of reasons, but the two things that stick out and that are the one thing that's current and referencing the other thing is in their TV series Hellier. At some point, as they're citing this, that, and the other book. One of the many books that is cited is a famous book by a pseudonym author who actually is a known Holocaust denier and written material on Holocaust denial. And they didn't say anything about that in the film, and whether they didn't know it and just failed to put it in or whatever, that's what happened with Hellier. And now there's criticism from somebody actually I'm acquainted with, and that is Michael M. Hughes, who actually was one of our Streamathon presenters. He and others have been keying in on a couple of things, including, as he says, really unfortunate that the unbinding, well-produced and innovative paranormal documentary I enjoyed watching is bringing a lot of attention to a really unsavory Slavic Ukrainian white supremacist neo-pagan religious group, Rodeghier, if that's even how you pronounce it. I'm really confused by all this because it seems like it all centers around this like 15 seconds or less shot of this church that you see here, that apparently is the gateway to that local church and obviously doesn't represent the entire community there. Some people, I think, were criticizing them for suggesting, or criticizing others for suggesting that all these people in the church are racist or what have you. It just goes on and on, but there's like, it all seems to center on this one little piece of thing, and just lost opportunities for discussing this and warning people about it in the overall storytelling of the Unbonding documentary. I'm not going to get into this. If you, I mean, I really just, I on the one hand, I think it's important discussion point, but it just gets into some areas where it's like, are you suggesting that they're crypto Nazis, like, and that this is all some scam? I think that's even maybe suggested that maybe the whole setup of how they got the crone was some kind of setup. Really not sure, but I'll probably put links to this, and there's another thread, this one from somebody on X Twitter, responding to Greg Newkirk's and Dana Newkirk's apology, and apparently I think they're going to edit the movie to exclude that one shot. And then there's other criticisms. Here is Greg Newkirk's post where he has a link to an image of an apology, which is basically here in an image file. You can read all that and decide what you think. Mountains out of molehills, or is there really something important to be talking about here? But really enjoyed their show, their live show. They ultimately were kind of giving an overarching theory of how they think objects become haunted. Again, they started with saying, we're not trying to convince you that our theory is correct, but they invoked everything from tulpas and creation of various esoteric egregores and thought creatures, sort of ideas, the idea of investing intention in an object, and if enough attention is human consciousness is focused into an object, that it can effectively charge it with energy and haunt it. There was another object that I've only heard them allude to and that they went into more about. That's one of the most intense stories. I will not go into that, but ultimately they invoked the research of Dean Radin on charging food with prayer and trying to test the results of medical patients or even just anybody's mood, whether it enhanced it or not. Double-blind experiments. And also the late Michael Persinger, who famously had all kinds of ideas about tectonic strain theory and its connections to UFOs and Fortean phenomena, and created what people have called the God helmet, that was a electromagnetic stimulation of parts of the brain in such a way that people would experience sense presence and sometimes levitation or out-of-body experiences, all kinds of seemingly paranormal experiences through this electromagnetic headgear. And but he had other ideas about the nature of the noosphere, the collective unconscious, the Akashic cloud of consciousness around us, and maybe the medium through which thoughts and telepathy transfer occurs. And so they did kind of try to give their overall idea, and they were trying to put some sciencey stuff around it, even as they're saying, hey, we're not scientists. Ultimately, I think it's helpful to just think of them as entertainers and preservationists, and that's good enough for me. And there you go. So that's it for that. Meanwhile, over on the internet, people are pissed off. So, all right, played that. So we already mentioned. So NASA, yes, they had this report that they issued, and then they basically just said, hey, we need better data. Duh. We also need to lessen ridicule factor. Duh. They finally launched their website. Yay. They're only taking military reports. Boo. But so they had this update. NASA shares UAP independent study report, names director. Well, or initially they kept the name of the director secret. Unsure why. As someone I heard joked, maybe they needed time to put up a fence around their house. Where is the fellow? It's Mike McInerney or something. Where is that name? Can't find it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so while NASA still is evaluating the report and assessing the independent study team's findings and recommendations, the agency is committed to contributing to the federal government's unified UAP effort by appointing Mark McInerney, Director of UAP Research. McInerney previously served as NASA's liaison to the Department of Defense. Oh, there you go. Covering limited UAP activities for the agency. In the director role, he will centralize communications, resources, and data analytical capabilities to establish a robust database for the evaluation of future UAP, etc., etc. This is, of course, over from nasa.gov. And, yep. What do you think of that? Meanwhile, some brief sad news. Sad news. Over at cryptozoonews.com, it's run by Lauren Coleman. He has reported that Bigfoot Books has burned and they've experienced a total loss. Bigfoot Books was an open general stock used bookstore 1.5 miles east of downtown Willow Creek, California. I carefully use the past tense because Stephen Strufert, the owner, is sharing that early in September 2023, a fire destroyed his business, is a loss. On Friday, a Labor Day weekend, September 1st, Bigfoot Books fire burned or ruined the entire remaining inventory, which was being sold off. And there is a donation link that you can look into. Bigfoot Books, no. Hate to hear about books burning, if you know what I mean. Meanwhile, over at a place that they keep books, the chipablib.bibliocommons, the Chicago Public Library website, is advertising this event. I believe it's free. 131 seats remaining. I think this is a hybrid and in-person and Zoom meeting. Maybe I'm incorrect. Well, if you're in this area, you might want to check out Close Encounters with UFOs, featuring Mark Rodeghier, who's been the president and scientific director of the J.L. Hynek Center for UFO Studies since 1986. He is also going to be speaking with this fellow, I think it's the two of them. Sam Maranto, director and investigative researcher for the Illinois Mutual UFO Network. The presentation will cover a historical overview of ufology, local sightings, and recent developments, and will be out of this world, they say. And meanwhile, another heartbroken post. The Parapsychology Foundation Incorporated, they are one of the oldest parapsychology-oriented organizations. They've been carrying their torch for quite some time. Lizette Cawley posted, "It is with an extremely heavy heart that I must share that Parapsychology Foundation will run entirely out of money next month, just a few months shy of celebrating 72 years of productive operation in December." They've been really trying to keep this going. There's a picture of the one room of the library. You can see there's a door going into other parts of that, other rooms of that library. Very sad. It appears that they have been negotiating to get the collection donated to a local university. So I'm glad that there's going to be some at least continuity there, and hopefully the new stewards will do as good or better of a job protecting it and making it available to the public. Meanwhile, here's a book I had not heard of until just the other day: UFOs, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, Observations, Explanations, and Speculations. This is from Springer Link, which I think is a publishing company for university books. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's just a print-on-demand book, but the author I've never heard of, Carl Svozil, and get some links to the different sections of the book that range from UFO look and feel, a glance at historic sightings, early UFO sagas, and legends prior to Trinity, July 1945. Really curious if this is in reference to the Paulo Harris, Jacques Vallée investigated Trinity case, hoax, or if they just, for some reason, this writer was referencing the nuclear test of that year. Other parts of the book: some visual photos of objects that have not yet been identified. Another section: UFO compliance and management, handling strange matters, UFO perceptions in the USA and elsewhere, some flight characteristics, abductions and experiences, crash retrievals, and UFO materials. But then it gets more interesting: UFO apprehension and challenge, some speculations, including sections: are UFOs cargo, as in a cargo cult, I assume? Are we an unaware participant in some galactic hypercivilization? And then, of course, things like possible consequences of disclosure or contact. Be curious to see more about this. It may be really lame, hard to say. Maybe somebody else has reviewed it. Meanwhile, last week, we reported on the recent news of one of the Secret Service from the JFK assassinations having come out with a new story. And sure enough, folks over at historycenter.org, Hidden History Center, this is, I believe, the organization that was founded to preserve John Judge's materials and was one of his efforts. And in their latest newsletter, which I can provide the link to this web version, much has been made of the September 9th, 2023 simultaneous reports in the New York Times and Vanity Fair of the claims of a former Secret Service agent, Paul Landis, who was part of the security detail in Dallas, Texas, when President JFK was assassinated on yada yada. Like so many reports by such media that have covered up the truth of the assassination for 60 years, this one about the magic bullet is also a red herring. It encourages pseudo-debates and confusion and is a rather dumb, limited hangout, which is a strategy used by intelligence agencies to dangle some truth in order to divert attention from core facts of a case they are desperate to conceal. With these particular articles, they are willing to suggest that maybe the Warren Commission's magic bullet claim is possibly incorrect. This is because so many people have long come to realize that that part of the propaganda story is absurd, so the cover-up artists are willing to suggest it might be wrong in order to continue debating meaningless matters based on false premises in order to solidify their core lies. Well, I'll let you read the rest of that over at hiddenhistorycenter.org. I'm not sure what to make of it. Haven't really dived into that, and then don't consider myself a JFK assassination expert, though I worked with one on radio, which is to say my old friend and former co-host Mac White, who always had much to say about the nature of the JFK assassination, which he grew up more directly in the shadow of. Well, like I say, there's a ton of other news articles over at our Flipboard. Obviously, can't cover it all, but let's keep our hopes up for organizations like Parapsychology Foundation, who did find a home for their materials, and sad maybe these Bigfoot burns. Bigfoot books store owners can get some help from folks. Meanwhile, we could use your help too over at Anomaly Archives. And hey, we're probably going to close the store in the near future. So if you want to get your merch on, you better go over there quick and get some of the merch, because it'll probably go away for a while. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Hey, Russ, thanks for watching. And everybody, you can find repeats of the show at our YouTube channel. You can listen or watch. If you don't want to see the pictures or my face, you can listen to the audio version over at the website. And of course, that is anomalyarchives.org. And I say good night, everybody. Good night.